Hi, it's nice to be here. I wanted since I work in the Department of Painting and Sculpture at MoMA, I wanted to talk about the aura, and I wrote something, so I want to read about the aura. Looking at visual art is the most sensual and the most erratic experience that we could have, and I love the fact that I have a blank screen, but that's done on purpose. Color, texture, shape, rhythm, story, it's bodily, it's cerebral, but it's primarily visual. And because of this, it's particularly susceptible to digital translation, especially in the case of two-dimensional works. Digital imaging is an excellent platform, a truly enhanced way of examining and experiencing objects like paintings, which is my passion and something that I've been thinking about because I have a painting show coming up in December. Because of this excellence, there's been a shift away from the text to pictures in the digital world, and Paula was wonderful at illuminating this. This turn of events seems particularly conducive to my world, which is the art museum. As curators, we tell stories with pictures literally. While I've never warmed to Twitter, I agree with Kate that Instagram was something that I got in an instant. Of course, those recent articles about the triumph of the picture on the web are referring to internet commerce, and not, by and large, to the revolutionary ways, or not, that art museums have shaped looking through digital interfaces like we saw in the Rijksmuseum. We prefer to shop for things we can see, and a picture-heavy rather than text-heavy site hits our pleasure centers and our itchy clicker fingers directly. It's like mainlining desire, the Zappos. Besides, we're accustomed to this kind of shopping, which is not really unlike a catalog. But buying art isn't the same as buying shoes or books or appliances for lots of reasons. Chief among them has to be that for any artwork, but especially for something like a painting, and that's what I'm talking about in general, the sensual experience of it is most of what we are after, I would argue. Before I go any further, I want to dispel any eye-rolling or reflexive phone checking because I'm not going to launch into a panegyric about authentic experience. Doing the authentic versus the virtual experience thing is like shooting fish in a barrel. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think I have to argue that seeing a thing in the original, especially when we're talking about a painting, is way better than looking at a reproduction. And anyway, this is a talk using digital media, so short of pulling an artwork off the wall and bringing it in and comparing it to a digital reproduction, I really wanted to do that, but I couldn't. I don't think I'd be able to convince those who don't agree with me 100% on this. Because for me, at least, it's 100% better to see a work of art in person, particularly a painting, to appreciate it, but also to have the thrill of having been in its presence and bathing in its erratic glow. This might be my fetish, I might admit it. Some people prefer internet sex to sex. And for those people, well, you can't argue with them, right? It's just their thing. I said that for me, it's 100% better to see a work of art in person, but there are exceptions. I did not promise to not contradict myself. Things are usually so much better in reality, but they can be so much worse, too. And this is something that Paula talked about as well. I'm sorry, I'm going over the same territory. Take the Last Supper, L'Ultima Cena, from the beautiful Milano, the birthplace of our beautiful Paula. By the way, this is the first in a string of fine art on the net cliches that I will be sharing with you. I've had fun remanding to them. Most of us know the story that this depicts. Even the general composition of Leonardo's work is in our DNA, but the actual painting, which is viewed by thousands of tourists today, is barely there. The work, even after restoration, is impossible to see, so to experience it is to experience pure aura. You know you're in front of it, even though you can't see it. The version of the Last Supper that we see on the screen is a high-res image available on the web for free. Seeing the work this way is akin to watching sports on TV. You can definitely see things lots better. You don't have to crane your neck, and it doesn't change in time, so you don't miss anything. But you have to agree with me on this, I think. The aura is missing. It's too easy somehow to see it. It's so familiar that we might not even see it. You know how some things are so familiar that you don't even see them anymore? That's why there's this. And I'm sorry it's a little muzzy, but I didn't want to pay for it, so I ended up getting one that was not super high resolution. It's an enhanced version of The Last Supper that uses all of our art historical and scientific study to recreate what the work might have looked like when it was first painted. It's a safe bet to say, though, that this work never existed like this. It's not Leonardo's Last Supper, but a different artwork, really more an agglomeration of information rather than an example of Leonardo's artistry. The artist drops away, and the work becomes pure information about the kind of tapestries that might have been depicted. Somehow I go right to those tapestries, the color of the robes, the food on the table, the faces of each of the disciples, etc. So there are a lot of examples of this. kind of art experience on the web, especially with iconic artworks that have become even more iconic and ubiquitous than they once were because of the internet. Mona Lisa at the Louvre in her bulletproof box, as opposed to the Mona Lisa so beautifully photographed and color corrected with a light behind her so that she glows. In an interesting note, the Mona Lisa has been in reproduction for almost 100 years. This is a almost equally ubiquitous artwork by Marcel Duchamp from 1919, Elle a chaud au cul. This work reminds us that Mona Lisa's aura has been dissipating for a long time. It can be argued that Mona Lisa's aura isn't even coming from the Mona Lisa anymore. It's coming from the bulletproof box. Again, I retread our Paola. For anyone who stood in an interminable line and then in the Cappella Sistina enveloped by Michelangelo's opus, you felt that Mount Rushmore-like erratic thrill of human achievement on a grand scale. But you also have felt your own weak-eyed, earthbound puniness in your frustration caused by your inability to see this wonder. Saved by this swell website, and I really had to have the song. You can zoom around, as Paola said, like a puto, accompanied by this music. The soundtrack and the graphics go a long way to conjure the feeling of awesomeness. But in the end, and you can argue with me, this site is best as a high-end souvenir, the thing you go to after you've schlepped yourself to Vatican City, stood online for forever, and finally had intimate commerce with the ceiling itself, along with 500 other sweaty pilgrims, necks between shoulder blades, mouths open agog and squinting upwards. This is probably axiomatic, but the best art to see digitally is art that was born digital. This is a gorgeous video clip from a wonderful one-hour work by Trisha Donnelly that features motifs that exist only in the artist's scanner until they appear on video or film or printed as photos. Donnelly's works are mysterious because we can't identify what they are or how she made them. Maybe you guys can. I can't. I've watched her works for several hours on end, and I still can't tell whether their motifs repeat. They don't stick in your head because they don't exist before or after we apprehend them. This is an awesome artist. This is a noisy artist. Can we turn it down just a little bit? I'm sorry. This is Ryan Trecarton. I'm sure you know him. He started in making his works specifically for YouTube, and it's only recently that he and his partner Lizzie Fitch have begun to build environments around the digital works. You see that on your upper left. The environments sometimes mirror the sets in the videos and sometimes offer a completely different experience, like that of an editing suite. I juxtapose the video and the still because this transformation from time spent watching to time spent in an environment raises the question of what the best way is to experience Ryan Trecarton. Okay. His work is about a world that has been created by the internet. His language is a language of social media. Corey Archangel's photographs are similar, as is Wade Guyton, who has redefined painting as an individual digital print. Though to be fair to Wade, he's constantly protesting that what he's doing isn't really painting. All of his compositions, like this one called Untitled Red Fire, are made from found images from the internet that are sutured together and superimposed on one another. Each work exists as a file, which he prints out onto canvas using an enormous printer. Although it might have ever been thus, painting is a big deal now, and especially in the market. Works by younger artists are going for enormous sums in the galleries, but particularly at auction. It seems counterintuitive, at least to me, that it would be possible to appreciate a visual tactile practice as a painting online, but I certainly do it all the time. And now there's an argument, and I think it's half facetious, that some paintings aren't digital are made to be JPEGs. This one is the sort of painting that I'm talking about. It's by Lucian Smith, who was born the same year as the internet was born, 1989. And it's a pretty good JPEG. And I know from reading the information about this artist that he makes paintings like this by filling up a fire extinguisher with pigment and spraying it onto the canvas. I don't really need to see details, and most of its qualities can be seen in the JPEG. With the addition of the size, the provenance, and possibly a picture of the signature, I would have no trouble buying this online. Which brings us to the inevitable and thorniest of issues, authentic experience. Ha-ha. You believed me when I said I wouldn't discuss it. It's unavoidable. You have to discuss it. How much is that authentic experience really worth? How much is direct visual experience a part of how do we enjoy a work of art? Look, Wade Guyton. Last week, this picture was sold at auction for $3.5 million. When the artist heard about the estimate for this work, he found a digital file he used to make the quote-unquote original and began madly printing more of the same image. He posted this process on Instagram, and instantaneously the entire art world knew the painting at auction had at least a dozen versions of it. What happened? Nothing. The work exceeded its estimate, and now some are speculating that if one untitled Red Fire by Wade is worth $3.5 million, then 12 others are worth that too. Does this mean that we are over the authenticity thing, or does it mean the opposite, that the aura of the original, the first one, is so strong that someone is willing to pay roughly 10 times its price if you were to walk into a gallery? I don't know. I work at an art museum, as you know, and art museums are all about auras. We're in the business of preserving authenticated objects for study, but equally important for display, so people can see the actual object. This iPad thing happens all the time, and it drives me crazy. I don't understand why people would put a screen in front of themselves when rather than looking at the art. However, this I get. Whoops. This I get. I'm a fan of painting. I believe in auras, and preserving them and celebrating them with pictures like this. What the Guyton incident teaches us, maybe, is that what we might be over with is not the experience of an extraordinary work of art, but of the notion of first and last. And this is my last slide. One of the most interesting things is that the availability of an almost infinite number of images of artworks from last go until now make it possible to create a quality of timelessness. No first, no last, no past, no present, no future, telescoped into what poets and theologians have called the eternal present. We live in a world in which, because all images are available, no images or set of them mark our strange moment. Even just a cursive sweep of our contemporary culture, from music to literature to visual arts, supports this. I dare anyone to guess the year of, if you look at a photograph, say from now, of a crowd of people, I dare anyone to guess the year that the photograph was created by, say, sartorial clues, which could include bell-bottoms and peg pants, new-look skirts with shirt dresses, wide lapels and skinny ties. Everything is there, so we have this kind of atemporal universe. We're off the clock, courtesy of the digital world and the ubiquity of quality images of art and of life made, and of life made to look like art. The biggest impact, of course, of the object online, the image in screen dimension, and what you said it was in the fifth dimension, that's the dimension of the screen, is how it has altered our way of thinking and artists' way of thinking, as we heard from Kate. This changes the way they make art, on or offline, whether or not they utilize actual technology and the finished product. I think it's a very exciting time. Ultimately, though, it's a question of not whether or not we like to use digital media in our study or consumption or experience of art, because it's with us now. So I think my suggestion would be to take the cues from the artists and revel in it.